Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Tuesdays for the Poetry. I'm your host, Gary Dale Burns, and the poet whose work you will be hearing this evening, whose work has been going for 25 long years. And I'm in my late 30s. That gives you an idea about when I started this. I'll be frank, around the age of 13. And tonight we've got 2 years of poems. We haven't done this since we started way back in, I think it was April or March, and that's because last week I needed a break. I needed a break. No, I'm actually lying to all of you, and it's good to practice honesty. I forgot to go live, but it's likely I forgot to go live because I needed a break. So I got that break, and now I'm back with all of you for Tuesdays for the poetry. And I think I'm going to hold up the microphone like this uh, and read like that because I can see that the microphone seems to be responding a lot when I do that. So I'll just make sure that I do that, that I'm talking and I'm projecting my voice because I think it was a little weak on some of the earlier um, recordings when I use this. So let's do current reading first. I had current reading up on my board every day when I was teaching this year, and I'm happy to share a lovely read, and that is Albert Camus' Exile and the Kingdom. It's a collection of short stories, and it has one of my favorite short stories of his, which is called The Guest. And there was a movie um, that came out, I think, 5 years ago, maybe. Yeah, 2018 sounds about right. 2017, 2018, called Far From Men. Look it up. Far From Men. Hey, Gary Lime. Far From Men, excellent movie. Stars the wonderful, as always, Viggo Mortensen, um, who is a quite the reader of Camus. And actually, if you go onto YouTube and type in Viggo Mortensen Camus, Camus, reading, then you're going to get a wonderful reading of Vigo. He is Vigo, reading some Albert Camus in a current, a more contemporary translation. But just beautiful work. This is something I haven't talked about actually, but there's three books that awaken my mind, or awaken the possibilities of my mind when I was in my late teens and early 20s. And those three books are as follows. The first book to really kind of crack my mind open was The Politics of Experience by R.D. Laing. Not everyone feels that R.D. Laing is someone who ended up being someone of any kind of staying power or note. His kind of ideas about psychology were radical in the 70s, 60s, and 70s at that time. But in particular, there's a chapter in there called The Schizophrenic Experience. And my aunt had schizophrenia, and there's mental illness in my family. And I really think that there was something in that book that started to let me know that the way that we perceive our realities and the way that we make sense of the world is often because we are trying to preserve our individuality and preserve ourselves, preserve our existences. So, highly recommend that. And then there's Camus. Not this book, Exile and the Kingdom, but his book of essays, The Myth of Sisyphus. Huge influence on me. And then there was this is the third book, but the first sort of foray into, so we got a psych book, a philosophy book, and we have a book on Hindu religion and spirituality, but with a Western point of view. And that, of course, is Be Here Now by Baba Ram Das, R.I.P. So those were really the three books. So coming back to Camus, is always a homecoming for me. It always shows me, shows my mind where I've been and possibly where I'm going when I encounter this book. So that's what I'm reading. If you're reading anything interesting, please put it down in the chat or in the comments at a later time. Seltzer. Just seltzer, guys. Okay, now we've come to the part of the opening of Tuesdays for the Poetry when I present a trivia question in order for viewers live or later as a recording can win 14 Years, 14 Sonnets by myself with a pseudonym, G.E. Jarvis, which is a send up to one of the crew members of the Space Shuttle Challenger, which burnt up after launching in 1986. So killing everyone on board, unfortunately. We mainly remember oh my gosh, send up to the Challenger. Pretty funny way to put it. Well, send up, yeah, maybe a poor choice of words. But regardless, there's something about that accident and space shuttles and my first full-length manuscript. There's a lot sort of in there about, because being an astronaut was the first thing I wanted to be. But let me get to the trivia question. So the trivia question is, I'm going to give you 3 clues. There's going to be 3 clues. I'm going to show you an image, and there's going to be 3 clues. So let me show the image first. So let me describe this image for those of us that might have vision impairment. This image is of a large structure on one side of the image that takes up about 3/4 of the image. In that structure, we have 2 stories, 2-storied structure. Looks like a large kind of hall, I guess you could say, with an arched doorway and as well as arched windows. 4 arched windows on the second floor, 3 arched windows on the first floor. There is also a peaked A-frame style top to this, roof to the structure, as well as a central tower and towers in the very back of the image. Also, alongside this structure, there is a tower that is not a tower with 4 corners, so a rectangular tower, but a tower that is domed and also circular. Around this structure, however, we also seem to see that there are chains. There's 2 chains. There's a chain that goes around the first floor of the structure, and then the second floor of the structure as well, that connects to the top of this round tower, which seems to be in the background. Next to the structure, taking up the last quarter of the image, is a large tree, and then what seems to be a kind of bath or well next to the large tree, with a person's head and shoulders sticking out of it, almost as if they are emerging from the well or coming out of the well. So basically, here are the clues. This image is of a temple. This image is from Northern Europe, and this image is from the 11th century. And it has something to do with some material that we'll be encountering tonight, if not tonight, in the coming Tuesdays for the poetry. Okay, there we go. That's so if you can respond to me at gary.daleburns@outlook.com, or maybe respond in a future tweets that I put up about said image. It's warm today. Uh, then you will win a copy, the sole remaining copy for sale of 14 Years, 14 Sonnets by myself in moniker G.E. Jarvis. Okay, so let's get to the poems. We've got a lot to go through this evening. We're already 10 minutes in, almost 11 minutes in. And we start with, I have to say, I think the strongest poem I've ever written to date. It's a sequence poem. I took a sequence poem class at Portland State University with Primus St. John, an extremely skilled poet and wonderful professor. But I was going through some mental health conditions, and I did not finish this sequence poem class. But I started writing sequence poems, and I've continued to write sequence poems that are one poem but in multiple parts. And I really am finding the format something that I'm becoming more adept at. And it's all to make up for my rather poor attendance and eventual just walking out on the class that Primus St. John taught at Portland State University while I was getting my undergrad. But here we go. This is the big one, because my one of my full-length manuscripts is called Hugh Melody and Other Voices and Other Poems. We've already heard a few of these in the last two or three Tuesday nights for the poetry, but this is the central poem, and it's called Hugh Melody. 1. Hugh saw the station travel from horizon to horizon as a Perseid meteor, an angel thrown from Zion. Biblical the stalks of corn and starlit husks were tall. With what reverence do they stand? What patience sees them fall? A show, all lightning bugs, flotilla of candles and gourds, rural night, a hollow body, the stars arranged like chords. And Hugh, remembering them, sang of their stories and named Big Bear, Bull, and Swan, a corpus sacred and profane. What to sing of that swift station, of modules, trusses, and arrays, of the labor and the glory, burnt up in orbital decay. 2. Baptismal font on backs of oxen, their yoke heavy, the spirit light, the marble sheen like a UFO, deep in the palatial granite. Hugh swore the naked eye had seen a strange arrangement, not unlike 3 vaulting kites offshore of a storm's abasement. Mom's car stalled, door ajar, awakened by the sight's opacity, a cupola through the nimbus to an atmosphere of sagacity. Eternal progression is bureaucratic, an accounting of souls forever, souls dry of the earthen hands that dip this cup underwater. Hugh, garbed in white dress, absorbed this and this confirmation, but heard not nor saw, save a form, an image. Oh, some reflection. 3. Exposed are the limpid glories quickly undone by settling. What dig might tell of trace life once golden is now crumpling. The 500th year of the age at the heels of heretic and saint. Hugh read in the regional library, built with bricks, by which books ain't. Snow unfurls a flag of rivulets, waving a hanky from the stacks. The study awaiting Hugh alone is a ferry ride to the island of Manx. With all possible love for eternity, the groaning of time is our hunger. Yet millennia that leave a morsel of great teaching will cause us to linger. Bearing Hugh out to sea, the wake is shunted, sucked to shore. Urns of ash poured over sand. The earth is silent as before. 4. In every large town of past century, a shuttered or boarded up church, or simply conversions of buildings to some angles, the plot, or their birch. Drawing rivers of sacramental credit obligate believers to their goods, not the good of losing those burdens when your sandbags are crested by floods. Along a trail pulling westward beside settlers drawing carts for fetching, honeycomb, hewing cornerstones, Hugh saw the diorama on a tour. If Bingham Canyon had once been a settlement, a remnant of a shoal, what geology could account for this infernal hole? Recovering the sublime view like a choir holding up its people, the landslides at Drought's End will chasten their steeple. 5. 2 Comoras in the heart's fire. For Hugh, it's hard to reconcile the marks under the prophet's pen, a snow cave collapsing on a child. All are welcome at the visitors' center, though some just to get the gist. Others, in taking Jesus' hand, nearly break it off at the wrist. It takes many irons, someone said to Hugh without further clause. A hall of printing presses appeared, worked by a dragon man's claws. Much has been published from prison and shot down outside of its doors. The consolation of them martyrs emboldens the radical, eases the bore. 2 hills, 2 Americas, survived by the older sister, the old matter of intervention, and the loving spirit that missed her. 6. You can tell it's a landfill and not a burial mound. A barrow full of gilding? No, a waste, an underground. Apropos of the wet grass, riddled with well-intention, sprouting pipes like trillium, their vapors trump convention. Cloud the memory to keep from squirming, burdens lift, unencumbered. An exorcism of knowing, wisdom's energy turns torpid, disremembered. Hugh, holding a dowsing rod, can't tell me how to work. Primes the pump and Archimedes' screwy magic dispels the murk. How much different than the gardener from undertaker. Pitch an act of superfunding, maybe raise steel and glass, boilermaker. 7. Landing gears promise a bitter design of flight, falling a limber declension, as the widow's might. Equality, the lawful misinterpretation of sublimity, adhere to social engineering, now a go for Raintree. Budgets unclear the house of superstitions known as men. Hugh, brief melody, in minor key, lifting brow to a power of 10. Coffee-fueled, protest on the launch pad as poverty enjams the moon whereafter, well beyond the reach of even Whitey. To proffer a ketchup bottle, let alone a liquid gas rocket, Hugh, lean on me in this chrome diner, writ with fatigue, becoming of ya. So that was Humility. I started it November 24th, 2015, and finished it May 20th, 2017. So that's why I'm including it in the 2016, 2017 bundle we got going on tonight. So thank you. Next, we have some more diamond body poems. This one's called The Light Near Day's End. The light near day's end, ribbons of purplish red streaming out of the clove. The chink in a mountain wall painting the underside of clouds, just low enough to catch color, stroked by the gentle wind as they fall asleep and dissipate beneath an ancient hour of rock. Halal, halal, sickle of twilight, as if it raised the sun and calmed the world with a deep blue shawl upon these hedgerows, trees, and fields. Sign to the believers in humility, so transformative a body above the mountain silhouette that the Catskills could be Ethiopian highlands and my wonder prayer. If you guys don't know what halal is, it's the beginning of Ramadan, when the sickle moon, the very thinnest first phase of a waxing moon during the month of Ramadan. Yeah. Practiced Ramadan a few times. It's a very interesting experience. If any of you have ever been critical of Islam, or have just wondered about the religion, I recommend looking into practicing Ramadan with those brothers and sisters. All right, let's keep going. We got poems from June of 2016. We got The Cloud of Vesuvius. Vesuvius, of course, the very famous mountain which spilled its pyroclastic cloud of ash, thereby entombing the residents and buildings of Pompeii and Herculaneum, and in that way, giving us a lot of archaeological evidence about Roman life at that time. But also, I can only imagine an extreme horror when everyone experienced it. But I'm trying to view Vesuvius in this poem from the perspective of the volcano, not from the people. The cloud of Vesuvius, like a teat spilling milk, spilling black milk, and the inner earth feeds the outer, fattens, and soon makes lean again. Set is a child of Nut. Our empires bury the sky. When tears reach the tropics, families will drink lack of salt, and itch at one bald stretch, and fingers into crags oblige. It's conceivable in contours, a sinuous line by line by line, enveloping fire, a kiln of flesh, smoke and clay, flushes out. The next is called When I Heard of the Supernova, in M51. If you look up supernova M51, you'll get some very interesting information. Supernovas happen, and some of them are visible from Earth, and there's some which have even been known to have brightened the sky. So kind of like this light that I have up here. I don't know if you can see this light. Let me move this. It's a very temperamental light, but oh, I kind of like that off to the side. So when I heard of the supernova in M51, I tried to make real the distance, the immensity by how far Voyager 1 has flown. This vast failure, looking through a window on a bay with the endless view of the star ocean, might as well have no face to point it towards. So the mind imagines, frames a constellation, models the telescopic distance, figures the game by abstaining from any calculus. In a fine chalkboard dust that covers all science fiction, the observable, the occurrence makes me wonder what creatures had been in M51. Because, of course, when a star goes supernova, we have no idea if there had been planets with life, uh, life that had intelligence, maybe even. Have you guys seen Contact lately? Watch Contact. Great movie. The kiss. The kiss you kept behind the lips, dry from stuffy sheet turning, pillow blotting, shapes we slept on and in disorderly dream weaving that we left warm, half awake, under cold pills of water, shaking out of the shower head. Your half remembered anatomy suns itself in a loose smile that gladdens this drowsy, untucked face you find in the grocery aisle. Waiting all day for rain. That's sometimes our experience here in upstate New York. Just waiting for the rain to fall, clear out the air, and get rid of some of this humidity. It comes back, but sometimes there's a respite. Waiting all day for rain, barometers, a lozenge stuck in your throat, mustache of sweat, the only beads baked out, and summer goes dark. The birds start the end of their trumpet vine revival, beating the punch bag air, every chore to pass time, each movement pushing limbs away from servitude toward the dancing electric fan. Come down already. Douse this town's evening, that we may sleep to forget this non-day. Okay, next poem is a poem in memoriam of a extremely huge influence on my poetry that I really have one person to thank for that, and that is Mr. Nelson Ndebo. Nelson Ndebo is a dear friend of mine. He's going to get married in October to a wonderful woman that he's been with for 3.5 years in the Bay Area. And he's very close, if not already there, this fall to finish up his PhD at Stanford. And he introduced me to Geoffrey Hill. And Geoffrey Hill, Sir Geoffrey Hill, was a British poet, born 1932, died in 2016. He was Oxford's professor of poetry, and I might have mentioned him on Tuesdays for the Poetry in the past, but if you can, please, please, please look up Professor of Poetry, Oxford Lectures, Geoffrey Hill. If you do that, you will not be disappointed. Gary Lyme knows what I'm talking about. But his lectures are instructions to poets of the 21st century to keep the 20th century in your rearview mirror. In your rearview, keep it in the rearview mirror. If you do not do that, I don't know what kind of poetry you're putting out there. But this is for him. It starts with an anonymous quote. A gremlin of doubt is faith's fondest friend. He calls out how deep her thought along life's riverbend. That loss is another's gain, is no dynamic law to frame the death of you without pain, while this damned overturned planet is now further lamed without your hand. And so the contortionist beneath the trapeze cater-cornered the hunger artist and other grimalkin beings will read this news as if the very king of fools revealed what he concealed, with one last pull from behind his paper hat, and in that gesture disappears, only later to have been spotted in the back row of the students' poetry reading. That would have been an honor to read poetry and have Jeffrey Hill listen. So rest in peace. Okay, a few more poems, diamond body poems. A few scarecrows. A few scarecrows made up of old t-shirts and sticks, little to no good against guarding any crop from the dear mothers with their fawns. As twilight comes on, slowly the last sparrow chirps, and the first hoots of an owl condense in the antlers of the hidden stag, waiting for the scarecrows still to move. Next, we have the Town Variety Show. The Town Variety Show has the balmy night guiding us under a roof of community. We're seated at half court to hear from the voices and instruments, neighbors unknown to display much greeting or glance on the sidewalk, now on stage, rhythmic and roiling the creek bed with our hands waiting in applause. Whew, we're already at a half hour. Got to keep going. Okay, we got Cattle Crossing. This is influenced by my first job that I had up here in the Hudson Valley when I was going to Bard College, which was at the Hawthorne Valley Farm Store, which is connected to a Waldorf associated school. And this is a poem about arriving there a little early and watching the cattle, which they kept, cross the road. Slow to a stop. The hooves of cattle are breaking traffic. They lumber through the shady run across to the newly sprung dewy pastures. All udders but the hulk-shouldered bull, lumbering by, slow, sizing up our vehicles, crossing with the first season heifers, tiny calves, and bony matrons. The young, light enough yet to leap alongside the gaze of sleepy headlamps. The herd moves at its own pace, by the tanned herder's slight encouraging, and are soon past the gate, mooing low and making for cud. The flow resumes. We make for lots, for buildings that pen up our energies. But I reach first a human crossing as a new mother passes with swaddling, an infant like us all, born without walking and destined for an unknown field. Next. Got a great poem next. October 2016, we got a Catskill poem. Boy, do we ever. In police auction vehicles. So, the police force, don't want to get too political here. But the funded force, the law enforcers, the funded law enforcers, and of course, very much up to their discretion about how they enforce said law. Sometimes they get a lot of funding, and a lot of towns in the United States, their police are well funded, and in fact, maybe even militarized. you could say. And when they get these militarized, more militant vehicles, they will auction off the old vehicles, that they offer cheap, impounded vehicles as well. They also get auctioned as well off. And I can tell you what, in Greene County, you find a lot of people with police auction vehicles. So this is for them. Also, the first line is Uncle Sam Bridge. And didn't know if you know this, but Uncle Sam, the Uncle Sam, or the person who Uncle Sam was based off of, was from, or at least had a house and lived at some time in Catskill, New York. So here we go. In police auction vehicles, Uncle Sam Bridge, over waters troubled, irradiated air, soils crumbled into a brackish swill. Bird-like sailing by nails the hand picked clean of suffocated nostril, shot off a report from the leaden echo of a Midwestern town. Every voice come to pulpit drowns every voice at service. We wait for a chorus to uplift the tempered metal of the indifference. In police auction vehicles, the skunk of eaves crushed beneath the grubby feet that stomp through public domains, singing whatever, the gospel of a whatever, kill, gurgles, wavers, in a throat asking round for amphetamines. Smooth tombstones loaf unnamed in the unseasonable fall air, rebuking the creek bed, calm now as walls. They're the bricks of the mill. Okay, we got Sonnet 15, not featured in 14 Years, 14 Sonnets. Again, what is this image of? That's the trivia. Here we go. I flitted like a barn swallow through the gates of you. My twinned tail was emblazoned by the silver of your dew. I perched astride the cradle, keeping innocence asleep, sensing not the bundle had no prudence to keep. I nestled just beneath you in the river of begettings, every life from highest Giza to the humblest of dwellings. May migration never call me away to lands with no branch of love's warmth, like your hands. Next one is called Curvature, like curvature of the earth. That's right, I'm one of those round earthers. Watch out for me. Got a round earther here. The nose speaks before the mouth, but without the tongue's inflection. Without the voice box either, or the echo of ceiling or wall. Sliding off the contours of the eye, the nose seems to go before all features, to be the Magellan of my hypothetical side. I see farther than to see over it, to let the sigh leave a wake of silent nests, and to hang a question for the naked sky. Curves. I mean, obviously the earth is not flat. Mother Earth is busty AF and curvy AF. So flat earth, no. You don't get this abundance if you got a surfboard. So that just got me canceled. Anyways, the dough thrown down. Oh, I'm sorry. I gotta preface this. This is about encountering deer, not hitting deer with your car, but encountering a deer having been hit very recently and passing by. It's a common thing that you encounter if you live upstate. It's just deer die up here. They are hit by cars, trucks, and sometimes cars that are damaged and have to take a second and pull over, and that's this case. The doe thrown down, shoulder to shoulder, heaving, panting for breath through the bubbles of blood at her snout. And further along, they've pulled over, hazards flaring, waiting for the natural coursing of their veins to settle. The misery of accident, little allegories passed again, come morning, in the rigid chassis by the leafless wood. Whistle. Whistle. We get a whistle because we've got rail near us, so we hear that. Whistle, the preamble of singing rail spikes, their teeth bit into the earth across the chill opening span of bridgework, rings of a chorus to old industry over the dark village and starving creek. Tracks, passages for freight. We plan to hop like vagabonds and trespassers upon some forgotten future. The Pond. This is our last poem of 2016, but then we're going to go right into 2017 because we got a lot to get through tonight. The Pond. In August, a wallow of mosquitoes. In December, a slate of bluestone to be chiseled into by sharpened skates. No longer blown into wind shear scraps or reflections of wild snouts lapping at the store of moisture. No longer its neighbor's eye, sore, the cardinal's bath, but an icy stage where the bird plays comically across like a little bead of errant holly. Next, we got a haiku. Haiku. Just to let you know, if you ever come to Catskill, New York, we used to have a Pizza Hut. The Pizza Hut is now an antique store, but you can't take the Pizza Hut out of the antique store. It just looks like a Pizza Hut on the outside. And that Pizza Hut is rumored to be haunted. So this is for the Pizza Hut ghost. Pizza Hut ghost, you're diabetic. Heaven, don't give them no rest. The ghost can't move on because we're stuffing ourselves with cheese and sauce and bread. We need bread, but do we need all that? Maybe now that it's an antique store, he can move on, but not really, because if you just stuff a space with old things and you have an old ghost in there, it's like, how is he going to move on? We need an exorcist. Okay. All right. Next, we have a poem for the priestesses at the Matrium of Cybele in Palinville, New York. This is the Dissension of Mother Catherine. The Dissension of Mother Catherine, a lecture on Cybele. The exchange house full of Catskillians, some ready, some uncertain, for the truth story. Orientation upon the very hearthstone wreathed in natural gas. Unbounded oracle binds protection of Rome. We've never been taught. We've been misinformed. She was and was not Mrs. Claus. Great Mother invoked, the fire of her speech wanted no holy water to douse the verbal flames, glowing metallurgy, their ting, 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 the smelted form of sanitation, cuneiform, patriarchy, an alloy tested for malleability or malleability. Orientation, meteoric. She condescends. A prophet's turn I seek to research falls from the mouthy cave, some stray ember caught, bent over, and blown with a dry mouth. This is self-making, and most American than most. Weeks before the march on the Roman omphalos of Washington, D.C., an exchange of seats for soul bending on those wintry sheets, where we sought ourselves in the eyes of the nation. Mother Catherine, after Q&A, descends with cane, her authority circling over its wood, meeting the snowy earth. It's different up here, Gary Lime. Different up here. I mean, you, I know you know ghost stories. You have seen ghosts. You have told me you've seen ghosts, but I mean, ghosts in a theater, that makes sense. Ghosts in a Pizza Hut, that's a little different, right? That's all I'm saying with saying that's different up here. All right. Next, we have a bump of joy. A bump of joy, because when someone is pregnant, congratulations, we love you, we hope the best for your child. A bump of joy. Not wanting in congratulations, your belly grows, a bump of joy. Above the heads of toddler screams, never shushed, if to forsake their love. All of our love for the children. Marvel, witness, favor, demographic develops among us and within you. Later superheroes are far easier to believe than exemplary humans. They'll praise athletes, share in celebrity, gossip idly. Men awarded themselves subhumanity. And we the wards of climate catastrophe, casting futures from molds of fear mongering. Birth children among cannibalistic energies. So I am tongue-tied, though I smile outwardly, as blissed out elders smile downward at the screaming toddlers, all too aware of the madness just beyond or growing out of your unborn child in a sphere of amnion. It's complicated bringing a child into the world, into this world. I feel conflicted about it. I don't have any kids. My brother has children. I think it's beautiful, but also not selfish. Just it's dangerous. I think it's dangerous to bring a child into the world. I think it's been dangerous to bring a child into the world since the Trinity test, which you can all go see in Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer. No, that was not. You think if I maybe put that there was a promotion in here that maybe Christopher Nolan would kick me some money, that would be nice. Poetry supported by Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer. No, I don't think that's going to happen. Okay, some more Diamond Body poems. This one is called Pines. In the pines, where the sun never shines. Kind of like that. A little different, because we have pines growing out of the tops of buildings here in Catskill. Another interesting thing. Pines growing out of the rooftops of cementins, crumbled and hollow plants, reaching for the pole star out of a colorless, dust-covered industrial tomb. Roll back stone of time, gymnosperms shit by birds, lobbed up by dust devils, or lodged in the tread of boots, swayed soul planters unknowingly fix odd evergreen miracles. Jade. Jade plant of elevating inch, showing expansion of green cloud polyps behind the condensation of a window. A thing or happening. Geologic time contemplates the life mineral, soft, above water, air wrapped, loose and fast, inexplicably brief, a trauma, then a callus. Walk about roots of strange trees, leave heel tapping, unearthed. So Jade was the first poem of April 2017, and I set a challenge for myself in April 2017. And that challenge was write a poem every day. Haven't done it since, but 5 years ago, God, is it 6 now? It's about 6. 6 years ago, I wrote a poem every single day in April, and it was challenging. But so that diamond body poem, and I think there's a few more diamond bodies. Yeah, I definitely use that form often in 2017 in April, but also I tried to diversify and I tried to look at other forms. So this next one is called the Tangelo of the Ideal. Stabbing the sphere, let me start over. The Tangelo of the Ideal. Stabbing the sphere of the Tangelo of the Ideal, you pierce the ethereal Cthulhu of thought. Everything dies, but the mind which rots as a roughage for future guts to square the impossible. Next, we have a bookmobile. You guys remember bookmobiles? I certainly do, but I lived a lot of different places in the country, and you maybe didn't grow up in a place that had bookmobiles, but they're out there, especially in suburban and rural places. A bookmobile. Bookmobile is found behind the fence of an impound lot, beyond a fire tower, or a fish ladder, by a cold child with an overbite, chattering against her retainer. Projector throws up a pool of light in the dark classroom to teach us the Dewey Decimal System with an age of digitized catalog cards loafing. If found, use classifications to corral horses, with wild tongues, to relegate clowns to a dystopian land, a plague of satire upon them, and shelve under 827. A bookmobile is found, broken down. It becomes the first library. The first librarian, a warming child in the glow of her literacy. Okay. Oh, next we have a great poem because it's a send up to Stepping Stone Cafe. Cafe they worked at for 7 years total in off and on in Portland, Oregon, which I called my home for a decade. So, but it also has to do with Niels Bohr, which I don't know if you've seen Oppenheimer, the new film by Christopher Nolan. I'm not sure if Niels Bohr is in Oppenheimer, the new film by Christopher Nolan, or not. But if he is, that would be significant because he was a physicist along with Albert Einstein and Heisenberg, not Walter White, but Heisenberg. And this is both about Niels Bohr and also Niels, who was a mentally disturbed gentleman who actually, he lived in a home nearby. He had trouble regulating his moods. Was most likely a paranoid schizophrenic, but at the same time, he would converse with us at the cafe, and he actually said that that he was Niels Bohr. He was not Niels Bohr, of course, because we could look up a photo and be like, that's definitely not Niels Bohr. Standing in front of me, smelling the way that he does. But Niels would come to the cafe, and I think the funniest thing that ever happened was related to me by my friend Alec, who was also a busser at Stepping Stone Cafe, and he said that one time some young woman came and sat next to Niels and like gave him like dirty looks. Niels went, "Man, I'm just so tired of these women hitting on me." And so he had a sense of humor, but also he would rant and tell us about the universe and tell us about physics. Um, okay, Gary Lime has confirmed to me that Niels Bohr is played by Sir Kenneth Branagh, which that's effing awesome. Because Niels Bohr is a philosopher of physics. If you have not read his work, Gary Lime and others, like, please read Niels Bohr. Be he saw the implications of 20th century physics for our very understanding of reality. And I can honestly say we are still not dealing or integrating with his very challenging questions. And yeah, just an amazing human being to have graced the earth. So here's Niels, though, at the cafe, both Niels Bohr and not Niels Bohr. You want to look for his book, Gary Lime? Okay, let me tell you, because there's a collection of his. I want to say, let me look here. I'm looking. I work occasionally at a used bookstore still up here, and I have a hard time finding books of his. So there's a book called The Philosophical Writings of Niels Bohr. But then there's also things like Essays on Atomic Physics and Human Knowledge, 1958 to 1962. He has multiple volumes of his work, but yeah, it's just, will Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer have anything to say about humanity in a deep way? Don't tell me, Gary Lime, it says, if you've seen it, but I'm wondering if he does, because I don't think Christopher Nolan's a very deep director, but he definitely puts on a good show, and has some adamant and loyal actors that work with him. So here's Niels at the cafe. Niels Bohr opens a mail slot. He scans, assesses, clarifies the cafe, and walks in. Days of physics waft off of him. Wafted off of him as he slides onto a stool, slouches over the bar. And you pass him a coffee. He'll never pay for. An endless cup. Complementarity with us. For an hour, maybe two, brief lectures on reality. His, ours, yours, once given, passes through a Casimir effect. And then he goes, schizoid wave or a particle of genius, out the door. Niels Bohr. Next, we have a Masonic ritual. I watched a Masonic ritual, 7 candles lit one by one, gilding the chamber with Saturn orange beside my father and his brothers. But that was years ago, in a younger state. The lodges here are burning in Athens and Delhi, not with philanthropic light or brotherly love, but down, so the tin of their rooftops now touch ground, as if Promethean fire leapt off wicks of righteous disenchantment. Oh, you remember the poem? Yeah, from Grass Snakes? Yeah, probably. Probably shared it. Um, you know, um, yep. Great. We got two more Diamond Body poems. We've got The Man Who Went to the Lions. This poem is for Toby Tanabe. Toby Tanabe. I hope you're watching. Maybe you'll watch these later, but this one's for you, buddy. The man who went to the lions told us he wouldn't be returning. Said, I'll either become their garden of Eden, my ribs, back, and legs, or in peace we'll lay those same parts beside each other as nature and man's distinction blurs. We sipped our drinks, nodded, and shook the hand still attached to the man who. And it ends there. Right, next we have Gunning for Buzz. We're only on April 7th. We're through the first week, so gotta keep on keeping on. Slowly the insects and all who eat them return, sun-backed with web, wing, snapping ice-freed features, and traits flexing warm, gunning for buzz. These centrifuges of living energy whirling away, unpolitical, unenvious, vacuuming up the six-legged, the larval, while indoors I smash in annoyance. A flat note falls through piano strings and dust. Okay, next we get another one dedicated for David Aaron, a fellow skateboarder and artist from Hawthorne Valley Farm Store. Workplace philosophers. Workplace philosophers, stymied and intrigued by the customers tearing down a sunny day with dark glee, as if weather were a canvas backdrop to the stage of their own production, and we, the faltering actors, misstep, screw up the scene, wrong line, and slow delivery on the rehearsal floor. Back at the dock, psychological spitballing over their psychic ills, some innocently spinning like an obscene prayer wheel, and others, well, on the trip of moon-dripping attachment that pulls you in, if one lets it. Clocking out, life is no literal Shakespearean metaphor, nor a Zen koan. It happens between presence and absence, in front of a neighbor, when you finally get home. Next one. Next one is about learning how to write in early grade school. Learning to write. We're learning to write. 3 dotted lines colored pink, blue, and chocolate. An ice cream cone, stacked, collated. Maybe a star at the end of the day. Some letters go tall, some are short. And oddly, some stray below. The lines aren't solid. The G's, Y's, P's, and J's drop or curl upon the page. Then an image from church. The green hymnal open with music dots beneath the staff. My teacher visits and says I write good. She doesn't know I'm really singing. We've got a haiku next. We got face of a grouper, one aquarium field trip swallows my courage. That's from around the same time as the previous poem. About first grade, I was going to a school outside of Worcester, Massachusetts, and we went to a field trip to the Boston Aquarium. My dad actually was a chaperone, which I appreciated. And I saw a grouper. I don't know if you've seen a grouper before, but to a very small kid, it was kind of scary. So I got scared by the grouper. That's all that poem's about. Feeling fear as a child. It's real. Okay, next we have A Little Stranger. I've lost my beard, and it frightens her. The gall of facial movements, expressions, tears into memories, softer, more red. How I pose as a little stranger to the woman who hides from me nothing, while a warm, odorous breeze cools my cheek with a kiss of shame. All right, another haiku. Haikus were easy. On days that I wasn't feeling I could write a full poem when I was doing this poem every day, every April. So this is what we got. We got Enlightenment Blues. Poet's poem has wailed. Significant emotion. That's a little bit of a steal from Jeffrey Hill, but significant emotion. That's something that concerned him. I think you know what we know what that is, right? There are times when we've felt something. Oh, that feels good. Oh, I like that. And then there's some times when something has hit us so deeply, and we have felt something in our core being that we're like, that was significant. I can't not remember that. That will change my outlook on life. That will alter the way that I have relationships with other people. That will influence my future actions. Like that. That's significant emotion. And I hope all of you have experiences like that in the future of significant emotion. Is anybody watching this? Read Jeffrey Hill. Okay. Naturalize. This poem's about, basically just moving a lot growing up, moving all over the country. It was kind of it's kind of a thing that we did. So, naturalized. We drove across the country and we were naturalized. Present but transient. On farm roads, peering out from inside a Buick, stopping to rest. An area bloomed with beetles, crunchy rugs. A murmuration of starlings began to twitter. All emigrants. We arrived at the next sacrament meeting, visited the food bank, raised our tent of wilderness upon the civil grounds kept green. Soon, we pack and leave a patch of browning debts with stories. Grass on the earth. Grass on the earth, like felt on antlers. The soil no longer frozen bone, but yielding to boots, to horse hooves, to roots, finding hold and awakening bulbs. You remember the warmth held close in your solar plexus on the winter solstice. Now it's expanding like verdigris bursts on this earth, tiny prayers to shade, to cloak it before it burns. Gary Dale Burns. This is Tuesdays for the Poetry with Gary Dale Burns. I hope you're enjoying the readings. We are more than halfway through the 2017 year of readings, and we are into the second hour. We've done an hour of reading, and we're about at an hour and 10 minutes almost. So thank you for joining me, and thank you for watching some of this, because as statistics show, those who might view this video later will skip around and they will click a few minutes in it, and then they'll click again. What's going on? 10 minutes in, and then they'll, oh god, this guy's still going. 30 minutes, and they'll hear, and maybe I'll be doing this bantering part. So if you're seeing this later on, stop scrolling, stop scanning. I'm here. Let me read this poem. This poem is called Confessionalia. A never satisfied craving for confessionalia, for the blood of hearts and the sympathies of strangers. Pushing language? Nah, constraints no meaning to a self-congratulating freedom free of an organ powered by hot wind. Yes, loves, lives, traumas. Most journeys through abscond with emotion. Leave few words, remainders like long division hang. Calculus may be God's language, but feasible work need not be enfeebled by the blunt instrument of cliché. Poor math, another culture. A sense for liberal arts may rest within the intellect, itself making an opposable thumb. Okay, let's move on. Potato sack. On a potato sack of love that day at Oaks Park slid to a humble end. One of the last kiddie trains skirted the fence line by the Willamette's banks, where we found a few embers under the charred briquettes of an overturned grill. They warmed your long legs, chilled by the river's breeze, while I tucked your torso close to mine above the hem. We leaned into summer, and through the autumnal cold into a frozen winter with and without homes. We kept the embers abandoned near those tracks and built fires by the wider lanes, a nation's width away. Come what storm, what expedition, we ourselves conduct the ride of our affection. That one's for Gillian. Definitely. Gillian. We got Threshold. Have you read Dostoevsky? Dostoevsky's all about the threshold. I'll tell you that. Dostoevsky's all about the threshold, especially his book Demons or the Possessed, which is my absolute favorite work of his. Some people are like, Crime and Punishment, Brothers Karamazov. Demons is where it's at. Maybe because I've got demons. But next we've got Threshold. We talk of respecting one another, pressing the threshold seldomly. Selfhood, a perceptual activity through the eyes and not by them. If imagination, then a possibility. That our greeting be genuine, authored and collaborative, as we could imagine. Another unlike ourselves, seeing us unashamed as humans being. Humans being. I just noticed that I didn't dot an I. Didn't dot an I in my book. There we go. The I has been dotted. Whew. That was a close one. All right, next we have Older Male Friends, which was published in an issue of the Chronogram, or Chronogram, as some people say up here. Chronogram, don't know which way you go with it. Chrono Trigger, my favorite video game that occasionally I even dip back into because they got that new game plus feature. But this was published in the Chronogram August 2018, before COVID. And this is about older male friends. I've had a lot of older male friends. I've been looking for mentors and father figures, and I have to say, those I found are piss poor and have not been real, actual guides. They've been warning signs, and I think that might be sort of the doom of the boomers. Excuse me. But anyways, here's Older Male Friends. older male friends, men my dad's age, or thereabouts. Bachelors for whom success has been as elusive as love and companionship, whose patience for change has been worn away by successive waves of tech, where the chrome diner is a home away from home, a stool to dangle their legs from, a single coffee mug in hand, a single spoon for the single sugar pack adding taste. In some past world, passing on to me the values of our people, the land, my life. Here now they hand over in a ritual gesture all their confusion and fear, only tempered by heart medication and my willingness to listen. Next, we got update redundancy. Oh, how much for the patronizing tone of skeletal meatless attention? Can you bill me later? And do you accept the currency of social action or critical thinking skills? The update redundancy is ridiculous, this sphere. I have to laugh keep from crying into the authority of my lover's hair. Would it be possible to opt out in case of pig-headed doubts? Rash has made my angrier but itching remains. Knee-jerking guts and groins, not much like the dummies of no consequence. So, state of the art? Deliverable alone by the precedent? Well, press me further. I will buy, but let me check the ratings and reviews and get back to you. Less is in the morning or an ode to night. Less in the morning or an ode to night. At times, there is less in the morning than there was at night. Through the day, though the day breaks open like a piñata, the evening was full of sweet shadows, laying their heads long and electric on my shoulders, humming soft and low. We were inside a horde of crows in their roost, hidden and without secrets. Daylight reveals nothing that it can add unto itself. The moon is now only a wisp of a cloud. Okay, we're almost through April. Oh boy, we're still going strong. We got this. School bus stops in town. Daisy chain skips across street. Spring breaking open. Physical proximity. This is a poem for Hilo. Rest in peace. Thank you, Laura and Liam. Physical proximity mattered. A village of highs and lows. Behold, first congregants this morning, the making of bonds, not the issuing, a bank of vast credit. We breakfast, we check in. The coherence of a vaster body, unassured, and so we proclaim the neighborhood that which we are in, all and each, forming under the metaphysical sea of love. Okay, next is a great poem. I don't know if you guys have seen Norm Macdonald's last special, where he's literally just talking into the camera of his computer, much like I am. It's very intimate. I really recommend just watching it and not listening to the commentary afterwards with fucking Dave Chappelle and everyone else. It's not good. It's just sort of reminiscing about Norm. But what's good about Norm and what's good about comedians in general, Jenna Friedman, trying to remember others that I've seen recently, Sam Morril. Anyways, there's comedians, and I'm listening right now actually to a biography of George Carlin, Seven Dirty Words. And comedians have a relationship to language in a very similar sense that poets have a relationship to language. And Jeffrey Hill, just to name drop him one more time, he knew this. And Ken Dodd, I'll just kind of put that in here for those of you that are checking this out. But Ken Dodd was a British comic who Jeffrey Hill actually cites as a big influence. And I definitely think that people like, I'm going to say it, Adam Sandler, David Spade, Mike Myers, Chris Farley, these sorts of comics that my own father, he loved that era of SNL. Tim Meadows, lot of great people. Chris Rock got his start. Then these comics, these comedians, they show the fault lines of language, and I appreciate those who show the fault lines. And this poem, "O Comics," is an invocation. It's a prayer that I might continue to find humor in my writing. Otherwise, I'll just be crying. So, "O Comics," I'm prostrating myself at the feet of the comedians. "O Comics, teach me from your bitten microphones, from the sodden and sticky stages of dark clubs and honky-tonk bars, from shady motels in even shadier cities, from irreverent hecklers to thin-skinned cholerics. That audience is possible, and listening for senses of humor, for self-effacing revelators, and something about a red-headed stepchild or aristocratic conventions that fakes out language. Light in our long, fetid marching to the receiving vault. Oh, comics, tell me that one about the mortician and the angel." Haven't written that joke yet, but if someone wants to pick that up, a mortician and an angel walk into a bar. Try to come up with something for me, Gary Line. Oh, do we have the fly? Is the fly here? We have a fly in the house, and I think I just saw him. Okay, next we have the subtle poem. "The paper won't write itself. Might not wish to even be written. May know somewhere under floorboards, at the back of a desk, among many other papers awaiting the auction block, it exists. And so another paper must be written without reference to annotation of the subtler paper." Clocked, almost through April. Clocked, the perpetual American disease of the heart. Motivation to move cars for street sweepers or start up a family. When it'll happen means one thing in a matrium and another to the medicine man. Do you get it? Time's as elastic as word usage. Overtime, a bump on our heads, not a fraction of a second after generation away. Trying to keep new handles free of the training wheels and those little streamers. That one certainly referenced and influenced by a little brochure that I had been shown by an old roommate of mine who was from Canada. And the first thing on there about culture shock was that you will find Americans talking a lot about time. What time is it? We're oppressed by time. So next we have the ads of progress. And ads, I don't know if you know this. It's a kind of a metal scoopy thing and carves out wood. Anyways, you'll get it. The ads of progress. We run ashore the bow on beach we left yesterday. This island of conditions we relent to accept, breaking us open again to reset, to heal what pains were a comfort in the shell of nostalgia. Dug in all attractions, then trenches of cool. Sleepwalk through a banquet of fruit trees. Wake up, but well past these body farms, to find in your hands again the ads of progress. Over a log, cut to float. Got a haiku next. Milk cow in the barn, next day of spring's first pasture, free of feed, grass kissed. Now we have the angels. The angels are bowling again, we tell the young flashlit faces. Now, imagining whole alleys in the heavens, massive pins thundering, craters and asteroids, flung molten matter, cooling fast, thrown over the plank lengths into the human heart. Here, no gutter, just for raining. Keep watch, to spare they split a ray of sun into an infinite bow. Right next, we have the last poem of April 2017 of my Write a Poem a Day. Intransitory Coolidge, Calvin Coolidge. On the mantled face above the boarded up fireplace of youth, I set my idealism. That people change. Gotta start this over because I also needed to preface that this poem was written on my birthday, which is April 30th. Intransitory Coolidge. On the mantled face above the boarded up fireplace of youth, I set my idealism. That people change, worlds are maintained, and justice reigns from an ark of a covenant, tolerable and humane to the foreign temples of graying hairs, with benign symbols of age. Regret some or none that make a moral sentiment pithy, a winnowing worth its crop in dung, stench one ignores to move with chin up. If cities are solutions, futures are female, technology salvation, older, more or less rural, and male. Shoulders, back, ought to visit chiropractors with meridian taps along this body uprooted and aging and transitory Coolidge, fading fast. Okay. Little cliche there at the end, but I made a mark about it. Maybe we'll keep it. Maybe we'll edit it. It's great to read these out loud with you all because reading them out loud allows me to hear them again, new for not the first time, but another time, and then I can be like, oh, there's the flow problem. There's a word, something needs to be dropped, something needs to be edited out. I've been trying to apply to workshops and writers retreats lately to maybe get some other feedback and to develop some of what I have already put forward as work and make it into something that is much better. Or maybe I should just give it all up and become a comedian. Who knows? Making real the situation, a difference, a slow recognition in oil slicks against an asphalt gray. Here is pigment. Where is spectral nature? No simulacrum, bad twin mirror image above the inexplicable wheels, prismatic condition of sky, never pre-storm, nor made by the hands of the hyper-real. The cemetery. The cemetery quietly glows, the yawning dusk hangs above this village of thin marble, tombstones speckled with lichen, decorations over the handles of hovels. I'm sorry, the mantles of hovels belonging to groundhogs and rabbits. A dogwood blooming. Up terraces we walk to a crypt where ferns cling to monumental stone, walking sinking slowly into the earth, certain of its mass, certain that it will ever be blackened by the lifting, thinning exhaust. Okay, next we have many men. Many men. I have kissed many men. I am still kissing them, hanging off their lips, their curing breath curling through the waves of my hair, making the waves, I thought, more than surface stir, excited. Minding each word spoken, extracting bone butterflied, open fish of my salt works, the men cured of sea doubt, of microbial misgivings, nearer the flesh than facile globules of blood running. I am hanging in the air, waiting for the waters to part, for their tongues to quit flapping. Speaking of tongues, the mendicant sang like a bowl rimmed with the lipstick of cunning. I have kissed many men, dead presently. Planks on the deck of living ships, the launch to cruise by the melting world. I pucker to place my lips nearer that which shoes clack over, kissing as many men as you've bent under. Okay, so now we're heading into some different poems. I wish you guys could see these. I wish I had them up here, but if you go see Oppenheimer by Christopher, no, I'm kidding. That's the plug's not going to help me unless Christopher Nolan's really into poetry. I doubt that he is. Although maybe with Dunkirk, he might have read some World War II poets like Keith Douglas. I haven't seen Dunkirk. Oh, I thought I got the fly. No, I didn't get the fly. Damn it. Okay, next we have Seeking Justice. Y'all seeking justice? Under what rule of Nick's tribe, Nick's tabernacle, Nick's table, musical chairs? You drop when the bass drops. Law and Order spinoff like a gravity wave. Feels cynical when the stone fruit pits you. Isn't that silly? It all depends on plew suffer, plew sucker, plew steadier hands. Nautical time, you pause when the anchor falls. Y'all spinning wheels, crushing you under the follow-up. Next, we have Gardener of Souls. This was written while my grandmother was at Straw Memorial Hospital in Rochester, New York, shortly before she passed away. Guided with caring words, nourished by baked goods, your presence of love made me a strong sprout and gave me protection from the storms and drought of my first seasons. You carefully tended, formed the whole garden of family to grow toward the sun and to reach above clouds for the love of our Creator. You've seen many little seeds discover their reach and gently bring their fruits back to His earth. Grandmother, Gardener of Souls, rest a while in His care too. All right, next we have the important thing. The important, thing. The important thing. It's hot tonight. Hope you guys are keeping cool. The important thing, no object. Shun bounded lines. Permeability, a portion of exchange. Taking names. We come into being Loose discomforts hand with a firm shake to conventional thinking. Subject contained. Seed pod breaks out, quakes earth, insufferable becoming a toleration for failure in 1,000 days, more or less. The dread piracy of subject made predicate on a worksheet before you is a line for name. Didn't get him. Saw you. Did I saw you or did I saw you? Saw you as I saw them, legs apart from their torsos, stage smiles for the assisted living. A trick of earrings on ears never pierced. Bring up a mesmerist, show off. Lifting the veil, but no big reveal. This machine totally recalls the face on Mars is no mirror. Your face struggling to see. Remember, 1, 2, 3. Talk about yourself as curtain sway. 2 people in 1 box. Oh, it's thin airs. Okay, next we have no masks. No masks. No masks. No masks, but glowing red. Pores of face. Tradition's initiation, a tall wardrobe moves on its feet to the bed edge of childhood. Bulk shadow plying over a drop in the pail. Ironing dirty clothes, steam smells crumpled. Fools none, but other fools who hang about. Dead cats of October, their muted wails beneath black and brown fruit off trees without orchard. Popping open-faced, their vitamin waste. Next one is called Beneath the Schooling. It's dedicated to Hermann Hesse, author of Siddhartha, Journey to the West, Journey to the East, Roshold, Damien, Beneath the Schooling. Beneath the Wheel. Steppenwolf, Narcissus and Goldman, and The Glass Bead Game. Read them all. If you have not read Hermann Hesse, read him all. He's also a poet, too. Beneath the schooling wheel, I turn round the mastery. Paltry sipping goes back to its box for another crush test. A brief turn makes it mirrored. A further spin, jeweled. The images glow, you said, while I contemplated the MFA issued Poetry in Motion, resembling an upchuck of serial entries I crunched down to wheat paste to poster. Adulthood and expertise not always guaranteed by life's hazards. We go back by leaching through bores in the grain, horizon a dipping waitlist for intro to purgatorial meals with great interest. Great interest. Not just minor interest, great interest. Not just any old emotion, significant emotion. Significant emotion. We got there, guys. Oh my gosh, we got there. Woo, 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 woo. I don't care. I don't care. 600. 6 0 0. We got to 6 0 0 poems. This is my 600th poem. 600th poem. If you've been watching this since the beginning, you're either Gary Lime or no one else. But we Garys got to stick together. What if there was a union of Garys, Gary Lime? What if whenever the UPS picketed or SAG-AFTRA or whomever, they were we feel really good with the Teamsters here, but if we had the union of Garys, we'd we'd feel like we could really take on, the capitalist pigs. Wouldn't that be amazing? Wouldn't that be something? Um, Union of Garys. I will organize. I will organize. But first, I have to confront you because the 600th poem is called Confrontation, which is not something I like to do, but I fantasize about it often. Confrontation always never works with you. Invoke Bloom, Harold, or Allen. Pick up Petals of Disgust, decanonize, decentralize, decanter, full of temper, mental change, and brief sense on the wind. Consultations for official thought, switches article tabbed from to with your reading promise or of future intimacies. Well, behave. Poethical? Sure. Fire is in the sky, as it is written on earth. Pre-invention, not a method, but kai kuit, smoke, a message. The League of Gary. The League of Gary. The League. Yeah, sounds more superhero, like the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Alan Moore, but I think a union is stronger because there is strength in a union. So maybe we need to change that, Gary Lime. The League maybe could become a union. I don't know. I'm just putting that out there. All right, we're to our last poem of 2017. You have been here tonight for the 18th and 19th night of Tuesdays for the Poetry. Good God, this is over yet. Am I done with this? Oh my God. We're almost there. All right. Perkham. Oh. TW. Trigger warning. This poem may contain references to the act of unaliving oneself. Ending on a positive note tonight. So positive. Perkham. Suicide not only voids life insurance, throw out the line. Throw out the line. Wants too much salvation. What to write? Well, make it visual for the unread. Prick 'em with thistle. Milk all their poppies. Kubla Khan their leisure time. Long, long, long. Here is a jumper and his clothes. Ripple into the river. IBM under production. Laws of quantity, luck, and accident. What's written and also left out of an obituary. All right, there we have it. That's the end of tonight. That's the end of Tuesdays for the Poetry. Probably the longest one yet. So no one's going to watch this. Although, there are people out there who commit to, 3-hour YouTube videos, but this is, I don't have illustrations or other things like do. All I have is this. I printed it out myself. Tell me what this is. What landmark is this? Northern Europe. And you win 14 years, 14 sonnets. Do you have a copy of this, Gary Lime? Maybe you don't. But all right, man. Everyone, peace unto you. Enjoy the rest of your week. Mask up for the poor air quality. Your future self, that will, if you mask up, not be suffering from asthma, upper respiratory disease. They'll thank you. They'll really thank you. Actually, just continue to mask up in large areas of people. Like just do that because it's healthy and smart. Too much in this world is just idiocy, upon idiocy, upon gamble, upon ignorance. So, make wise choices. And I will see you next week for another Tuesdays for the poetry. This has been your poet extraordinaire, Gary Dale Burns. Thank you so much for joining me. And I will be ending this live at exactly 1 hour and 45 minutes.